Some stodgy cow had found herself in the enviable position of deciding just how far she was willing to challenge lavatory conventions when they radioed me to come after her. I had finally got my head around some peace and quiet in the maintenance shop when they said that some grog blossom had stumbled her way in, and presently out the women's lav, crying foul rape and holy Christian murder, a frequent enough occurrence, only this time she had more than enough bog rolls to shake a stick at. I dragged my heels by making a few laps around the south stairwells, taking the longest route possible, but also making sure not to catch any of the paths that, to my knowledge, my supervisors frequented. First order of business, and a good one at that. By the time I got to the first floor, there was a crowd forming, and the slag, who had initially signaled for the cavalry, had what looked like bird's custard thickening out the side of her jaw. I would have to clean that as well, I suppose. The whole thing was a scene right out of Jackie. It was so pathetic. "You dirty malingerer," one of the link workers declared. "You can't be taking your sweet and fabulous time every time we page." I ignored the insinuation, spot on though it was, and traced my eyes from custard face to the lavatory doorway. I slipped my hand in gently through a crack of the door, and then bent my head to interpret the gruesome details. Almost instantly I recoiled. Human biology be damned, it smelled a foul thing. Black as Newgate's knocker to boot. Though decency forbade it, science proclaimed it, and so I asked if it was true what had been reported, but the grim faces looking with disgusted aversion rendered these queries fantastically unnecessary. I had half the mind to ask them if they would want me to set the stores on fire. Instead, I merely remarked, "I guess she did not rate 2 feet off the floor enough of a challenge, so she thought a good bab in the sink would be more to her liking." That was the order of the day. Ever since I started working at the shelter, the biggest of its kind in the city, and undeniably, for that reason, an altar call to all the privation that frothed wildly at the margins. Skulls, converging morning, afternoon, and night for a kit, or a place to rest a tracking arm. You can put good money on that, if you can put it on anything. Lunch was served promptly at 11, and then you would have the stinking aftermaths to deal with. Mucus-stained hankies, Bellino mates cutlery strewn about, scag needles, sauces thick as bilge water, upturned garbage, condoms on dinner plates. The shelter was enough to drive you up the walls a dozen times over. Let us say you get a table to look just right, polished all the way across with no cock-ups, before you can say bingo. Job well done. Someone's decided to improve the woodwork, and if between a spot check and your inevitable return things are left in a state, you can be sure your boss is out with his camera to swear evidence against you. Damn the trouble of developing the pictures, floors and furniture. The photo man asks himself, who the rotten hell gets off on pictures of dirty tables? But once in a while, a hard day keeps you sane, I suppose. I would like to tell these stuck-up gits that it was easy enough to bark orders until you were blue in the face, but if you were the ones actually bending your nose over the grindstone, you would not be in such a hurry to assign stupid, petty, busy work. It is not much of a life, to be honest. The exemplary case of futility, not the off chance of disaster, but disturbing guarantees. Because you do not know heartache until someone sullies the reflection in the floor you have just shined to sweet and glorious perfection. Don't think I'm pulling your leg here. You can't know frustration like someone sighing. A clean bean liner with a steaming cup of coffee. 5 will get you 10, that will get your goat. I do not pretend that I am sculpting the bronze David with my hands, but all the same, it is my work. It is all I have, and I would be a fool if my time belonged to anyone else. To have it all of a sudden scuppered is the same lash of an insult as any other, be it by pen or sacrilege. Don't try to tell me otherwise. It is a thankless service, so I am racking my head on getting double, triple whatever I am owed. I keep a record of how many hours I have stolen from those skull-grinding bastards. Worked are all the 3 sweetest words in the English language. I'm not going to argue about what is right or wrong in the world when I got the boot heel grinding down the back of my neck. You could not teach right and wrong if you tried. Sometimes I like to think of what life would be like if janitors carried on like we was one of Cary Grant's boys on Barranca Airways, lining up and ready to shave our peckers for any job the Dutchman will send our way to get close to some of that heady Empyrean. If we only make the right noises, then we'd soon thrill at Gangnam highs. Can you imagine our bottom-feeding legion tripping over dust mop and ratchet clawing at each other to be the first to get a blood clot off a toilet seat? Skipping all the way to clogged trapways to get shoulder deep in adventure. Maybe then Jean Arthur will show us some tenderness in our cabin and show us what it means to be a man.
They must love it.
Cleaning.
Flying, I mean. It's like being in love with a buzzsaw.
Not much future, huh?
Let me tell you before you hurt yourself asking, you fall into it as much as anything else. And despite what you're told, you can always do worse. When you're in stuck, what else can you do but take the first thing that comes your way? I won't feel embarrassed about it when I'm more than any of the other buggers combined, stuck in offices or digging holes all day, making more than my head can get around. It's all a trade-off too, when you get right down to it, like any other thing. You just have to know what sort of blighter you're going to be when you get up in the morning, just as much as you need to know what the world is already dealing out for your kind. The whole universe don't want you to set your sights too high, and if you keep your nose clean enough, they'll keep clear of your back, and that'll keep them from screwing you deeper into the ground. The whole bloody civil service can shove off with their quarterly targets and upmarket headaches so far as I'm concerned. I don't need the spot of bother. No one promised me that sort of life, so fair play if I kick it right back to them if they come a-calling with it then. No one gives you credit for using your loaf, and that suits me just fine, because it means they don't expect much from you to begin with, which can normally stand you in good stead. They can keep it all while I go worrying about buffing floors and rubbing curse words out of the washrooms. I don't need the aggravation on top of the aggravation of living, and if I can add to theirs once in a while, well, you can ask yourself again, who's a lucky duck when you tally your final accounts?
I talk with robot voice because I am not human. I have frozen my emotions so I won't get hurt